Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee and meteorologist Joe Rayo here on the
Yes,
Joe and Joe Weather Show, where we have breaking news, Mr. Rayo.
breaking
Breaking
news,
news.
ladies and gentlemen.
Tropical Depression 22 has formed in the southwest Gulf of Mexico.
So are we looking at Wilfred?
Wilfred. So that'll get us that'll take care of the alphabet, and it probably will become a tropical storm because everything else has, and it will be named Wilfred. Of course, we have now Major Hurricane Teddy as a Category 4 and a formidable hurricane. And we're going to talk about that because Bermuda looks like it's the possible first stop, and we may have a second stop in Nova Scotia, the way it is setting up. Might, if it curves a little bit further to the east, it could also maybe be a threat for Newfoundland, but I think Nova Scotia stands out front and center. Before we do any of that and our own local weather, I just want to update everybody on the chairman, Scott Briller, who had his got to see a doctor today, got a COVID test, and as he said, and I quote, "It felt like it touched my brain." So he must have got the one where they stick the swab all the way up your nose,
Right,
and
right.
as opposed to
And that's a
those.
long swab, Joe.
Yes, I'm sure, and um, uh, it, it it's just it's too bad he couldn't get one of those saliva tests, the 15-minute tests that they have. So now they said that they're not going to be able to tell him his results for 6 days, and so well, sometimes they say it's 6 days. It winds up being less. Let's hope this way he finds out sooner rather than later. But he's got no fever, but he's got some other symptoms. And after what was probably a strange doctor's experience, where he goes to see the doctor, and they said, "Well, you have some of the symptoms of COVID, so you need to leave the office and go outside." So it's like you're at the
It's
doctor's
the
office.
world of 2020 that
It
we
is.
live in.
It's all strange. So
Yeah.
um, relax, stay at home. You're quarantined for a while. Drink drink liquids. Get yourself some good chicken soup or a cup of turtle soup and make it snappy. Uh, but yeah, convalesce for the next several days, and we everybody wishes you well. Okay, so fingers crossed that it all comes out, everything comes out all right. So uh, yeah, we got another TD. We have Teddy. We have some rain tonight that's going to get close, but should slide just south and east. Although it's already on the radar in southern New Jersey and it points south. Might skim eastern Long Island for a short time, and then we can focus on the fact that this is the last weekend of summer, Joe, and it's going to be very much an autumn weather weekend.
Oh, no question. No question about it. It is going to feel a lot more fall-like than summer-like. And I think Sunday night, Joe, we're probably going to see throughout the tri-state area the chilliest temperatures we have seen going back to last May. I think Sunday night we might actually see the temperatures in New York City for the first time since last May fall into the 40s,
Hmm.
and it's going to be
And we might see some Sunday morning and into and Sunday night into Monday morning. Now, but it's a little tricky because we got to figure out what the wind issues may be with that big high to the north. But there could be some spots not too far away from you, Mr. Rayo, that wind up getting close to the freezing mark Saturday night into Sunday morning. With
I
up,
didn't get I didn't You'll have to say that one more time
I
because for
said,
whatever reason it didn't come
oh,
through.
Saturday night into Sunday morning. I think areas not too far from you, going north of you, the Middle Hudson Valley and in the Catskills probably will see temperatures down near or even below freezing.
Oh, no question. I have tomorrow night, for example, in my Hudson Valley forecast, I went for a range of 39 to 50.
Hmm.
I think it could get even colder than that in places when we get to Saturday night or even Sunday night. It is going to be most definitely a fall weekend. There's nothing. However, by this time next week, Joe, from what I've looked at, it could very well be pushing back up through the 70s back up to around 80 by this time next week.
Well,
So,
yeah, by the middle and latter part of next week, yeah, not impossible. The one thing I'm wondering about, because I noticed it today especially, we had hardly any sun. Now, I know we had a lot of high clouds that came up from the south, and I get that. But the last couple of days, that smoky haze from the wildfires, I really think has had an impact on the daytime highs. I think it's knocked them down by at least 2 or 3 degrees uh, on both the last couple of days. So I wonder whether if we're still going to have that issue with that milky hazy sky, whether that's going to hold the temperatures down just a little bit.
well, as I said, the last couple of days, from what I can interpret from the upper level wind flow, I think that when we get to the weekend, we're going to see a lot of that smoky weather get pushed away or pushed off to the south and to the west of our area. And I think especially Sunday, for all of you who have been awaiting a bright, sunny blue sky, I think we'll actually get that this weekend, especially later in the weekend. As to whether or not the smoke returns during next week, still a bit of a question mark, but I do think we're going to get a break from the smoke when we get through the weekend. Until then, until well after the front moves by, and then during the day tomorrow, we're going to have gusty winds at the surface level from the north and northeast. But we'll have to wait until those winds turn out of the north and northwest in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that really won't start coming our way until Friday night and into the weekend. And that's when I think we'll begin to see some improvement in the sky
Well, you
conditions.
wonder whether the hurricane, if Teddy winds up going up straight north into southeastern Canada, we're going to get into a northwest flow here behind it, at least at the lower levels of the atmosphere. And I wonder if that's going to also help it along, because there is a short wave that's going to be moving through to the east that might help set up a northwest flow aloft. We'll see. Although it seems to me, Joe, that northwest flow or not, that smoke seems to be finding its way in places that you never expected it to get to.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at the flow and you say, "Oh, it's coming from the north and northwest," it's not going to be of any great concern. But then, if you track or trace that flow beyond over the high pressure ridge in the central part of the continent, it goes right on back to that zone where the smoke is and where the forest fires are in the west. So you kind of wonder whether or not those that smoke plume will go north and northeast and then east and come right sliding down that
Right.
northwest flow. So we'll see. I think that if that does happen, though, I don't think it will be as thick or as opaque as what we've been subjected to over the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's been pretty hefty. All right, let's get started with Teddy. Teddy, I have the enhanced satellite view because something was going on at Goes today where the whole screen turned a lovely color of baby blue. So that was not intentional. I did see a few comments in a couple of places saying, "Oh, those are nice looking satellite pictures," and it's like, yeah, well, they weren't done on purpose. Okay, there's some kind of mechanical difficulty going on, but they did finally fix it. So I've been looking at the using the color enhancement here, and really impressive. And in fact, if you look on the loop, Joe, in the last couple of hours, there's been a blow. You see that big dark spot that's showing up in the northern semicircle there. That is a burst of thunderstorms. You probably may be going through another round of deepening here. And with top winds now at 140 miles an hour, the buzzsaw look on the satellite is not that far away.
It's a compact little storm. Yeah, and you're right. It does look like a buzzsaw. And eventually, as it goes, let's say north of latitude 30 or 35, it's going to have to diminish just simply because it's going to be moving over cooler waters and maybe a more severe or robust wind flow. But still, if it makes it all the way up as far as Maine or Nova Scotia, it's still going to be a very formidable storm. There was one storm that is in the weather annals that is often referred to up in the Maine and Maritimes region, the Saxby Gale of 1869. That one occurred in early October, however, but it was a very formidable system. And this could turn out to be formidable. But we do have one outlier, Joe, the GFS. The GFS is the only significant model that wants to turn the storm away from the Atlantic seaboard. But we've got the European, we've got the Canadian, we've got the Icon, the German model, all saying no. It looks like it's going to curve back toward eastern New England and the Maritimes by the middle of next week.
Well, another more breaking news: the new GFS that just came out has now joined the party. So
Oh, really?
yes, it has now joined the party. So they all are on the same page. Looking at this satellite, the one thing that strikes me is just noticing that there is an upper trough right here from Bermuda on southeastward, and you can see from the flow of the clouds. I'll take the little coloring I did off of there. I'll do it a little bit further south, but there is some kind of upper trough here. Now, uh, I haven't I didn't look deep enough to see if this upper trough lifts out, because if it doesn't, then as Teddy approaches it, it's going to start coming into some shear here. So we'll have to wait and see uh, what happens, because Bermuda is the possible first stop. Maybe it'll go a little bit east of Bermuda this time around, but it certainly will be rather close. We should point out, by the way, that this was Tropical Storm Vicky, but the Hurricane Center wrote the last advisory and obituary on this one,
Oh,
as it looks like that all that seems to be left of it now is a low cloud swirl. We still have this tropical wave that's south and west of the Cabo Verde Islands. That is, they're still talking about the possibility of development, although conditions may become less conducive over the next couple of days as it moves to the west. Part of the reason for that is probably the trough that's going to be left in the wake of Hurricane Teddy, some wind shear issues as it goes further to the west. And you can't really see it on this view, but when we're done with Teddy, we're going to go look at Tropical Depression 22. And here's a tight shot here. Now, there's that first frame, is the last of those lovely blue pictures that I mentioned earlier. But you can see how well developed the eye is. And also, you see the feathering. Whenever you see the feathering in the high cirrus on the outflow, that is an indicator of something that is strengthening, and especially if you see it where it looks where the system doesn't really look all that well organized, but you start to see that feathering on the edges. That's usually that's a pretty good indicator that the system is about to gain strength. And this one, I wonder, Joe, it may not have reached its peak yet. It looks like, with that blow up with those colder cloud tops we just saw, we might see this get a little bit stronger here before it peaks out.
it certainly looks like the classic textbook of a major hurricane, and that is indeed what it is. And you could see, Joe, in the final few frames that the convection seems to be intensifying on the west side of the storm,
Yes.
and the eye of the storm becoming much more well defined. So this is every bit a major, well, you just mentioned at the start, a Category 4 storm.
Correct. And we'll see if it gets it up to almost a 5. The top wind's at 140 right now. Now, here's the hurricane tracking models, Joe, have made a shift also to the west. They seem to be to the east. And this is something that's happened I think, all season long, where these hurricane tracking models have been on the eastern side of the global models. All the global models this season seem to have been west of where the track models have put the storms. But this latest set of model runs from late this afternoon has shifted to the west. They have it more in eastern Nova Scotia and then going toward Newfoundland, whereas the globals are more in the western part of Nova Scotia. But we're talking about Tuesday, so there's 4 days where we can fine tune this. And again, I think the first main question is Bermuda. Is it going to go over Bermuda or not? That is a tough call, because it is going to, once it gets to about 30 north, it's probably going to start moving more northerly. So that turn to the north is going to be really, really important here. Every hour that it goes more west is going to increase the threat to Bermuda of another
Yeah,
direct pass. By the way,
I mean, you can forecast a storm of this magnitude to take the turn and go to the north. However, one thing I think the models don't take into account fully is sheer momentum. I mean, we're talking about a storm that is going one way at a certain speed, then all of a sudden says, "Oh, well, now it's going to go this way." Well, yeah, it's going to go this way, but as it makes that turn, the sheer momentum of the forward speed of the storm is going to take it maybe a little beyond or a little bit more uh, to the north and west of what the which still puts Bermuda right near the crosshairs this time around on Monday.
Right.
We had they had Paulette they had to deal with Paulette on this past Monday, and now this coming Monday it's going to be Teddy. But if this keeps up, maybe in Bermuda they'll have a new hit song. If it's Monday, it must be a hurricane.
Right. Teddy at 20.1, 54.1, top winds 140, northwest at 13. And you can see the Hurricane Center's forecast track pretty much keeping it northwest right into Sunday morning. And then after that, takes that sharp turn to the north. And at least on this forecast, the actual center of the hurricane would pass just to the east of Bermuda, but it's going to be a very close call. And then it's for later Tuesday that we're seeing the possibility of this heading up toward Nova Scotia and perhaps Newfoundland if the track is a little bit further to the east. And again, that is going to be something we'll be talking about more as we move forward. Now, let's take a look at what's happening upstairs because it is this is one of those situations, Joe, and it happens. Sometimes you look for these major systems in the upper atmosphere that are drivers, but sometimes it's the minor ones that create havoc. And indeed, if you watch, we're going to look at the upper air here, and I'll roll back to this is as of this morning what the upper air looked like. So when we take a look at the setup, of course, we've got this upper high that is sitting right over the central part of the subtropical Atlantic. It's not particularly strong. If you think back to the storms that we've had this year, we've had this east-west high that has run across the Atlantic and across the southern part of the United States. Not the case this time around. You have the remnant low of Sally, so there's some troughing in the southeast, and you have this rather strong northwest flow thanks to this upper low in eastern Canada that is moving weather systems along, and we've seen that with cold fronts coming by, another one coming by tonight that is picking Sally up and taking the remnants out to the northeast. But these are the drivers. And what's happening is, of course, that upper high in the Atlantic weakens. And Teddy moves northwestward. It keeps going northwestward. Now, here we are Sunday morning, and we have a rather deep trough moving through the northeast and mid Atlantic states. You have your upper high out here. You have an upper high out in the Gulf of over Florida, and the weakness in the middle is where Teddy is. And by the way, on the western Gulf, we have the upper air reflection of what might be Wilfred. We'll see. So you look at this. If you follow the road map here, Teddy should go this way. And actually, after making a close pass of Bermuda, the sharp right turn that Joe pointed out that the GFS has been showing for days and days. But what happens here is that the bottom part of this trough, and all the models are showing this, the bottom part of this upper air trough separates from the main trough as that goes by. So the main trough goes by, and you're left with
It becomes
this.
baggy.
What's that?
There's like a bagginess to the
Yes. And there's an
yeah.
upper low there, Joe, east of Cape Cod. We were looking at it yesterday on the European. The European still has it off the New Jersey coast, but that upper low now is going to be the driver, and it's going to take Teddy, and Teddy's going to respond to that hanging trough, that just sort of lays back there, and you can see how the upper low just sort of picks it up and kicks it northwest and northward right into Nova Scotia and then eventually on up into Labrador. All the models have this idea. The European is a little bit left. European would say western part of Nova Scotia, maybe even you could make a case for southeastern Maine, while the other models might be just a shade more to the east. But they all have that same idea of that part of that southern part of that trough that comes through winds up cutting off the east coast. So here's the Europeans' view, and the European, Joe, started this yesterday. It actually has it cuts it off much further southwest than the other models, but the outcome winds up being the same because that upper low gets pushed out to the east, and it just picks Teddy up, turns it northwestward, and this is where the Europeans' track would be: western Nova Scotia, southeastern Maine. If
It's
it,
almost reminiscent. I know it has nothing to do with or is not like this particular scenario, but it still kind of reminds me of the blizzard of '78, Joe, where you had this cutoff low suddenly push on down, intensify rapidly, and then pick up a storm, which, for all intents and purposes, was going out to sea and away from the Atlantic seaboard, and said, hey, come back here, and literally pull the storm back to the north and west while also interacting with it and intensifying it. And this is kind of reminds me of that kind of scenario where this cutoff low develops, grabs onto Teddy and says, Teddy, come over here,
yeah.
and sends it back toward Maine or the Maritimes of Canada.
Well, and by the way, there are other things going on that are part of this equation. Now, I go back to Sunday, for example. So you have that, before this starts to separate, but you have this trough, and you'll notice that the flow across the Atlantic is pretty much like a ruler, running a strong southwest flow there. Now, the part of the trough that doesn't hang back and keeps on going by Monday morning is just south and east of southern Greenland. And then on Tuesday, you've got an upper air storm that is forming near Iceland and troughing that is dropping down toward Western Europe. And this is important here because that forces ridging up in this area, an upper high that builds out to the east of Teddy, leaving no place for this to go except up northward.
Joe,
So
I don't know if you could hear me. I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't mean to interrupt you, and I'm wondering whether or not anybody on the chat board can post this. But you have been freezing at
yeah,
about
I don't know. It's
3 hours.
I just saw the thing that said internet unstable. Okay.
I mean, it's not long. You freeze for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then you come back. But
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a Zoom issue. Unfortunately, it's not me. But apologize for whatever reason. There's the Twilight Zone is working here right now. Correct. But you guys see how everything is related. It's not just a simple matter of, okay, the model shows this, but it's important to understand why all of this is going on and all the changes that are happening, not just along the East Coast, but also how the changes over Greenland and the changes over Western Europe and the changes over the Atlantic all are part of this puzzle. And also we can look back at what's going on to the west, where you're getting this rather strong ridge that builds up from the Ohio Valley northeastward into eastern Canada that traps that upper low in there. So it's all part of the plot. And by the way, going forward, there's another shortwave trough that comes through at the end of the week, Joe. That might cut off that might slow the warm up, or at least may only confine it to a day or so. It looks like another front might be coming through here at the end of next week, and then there's more action beyond that. At least if the world of the European is correct.
Well, it looks like, aside from late tonight, maybe actually toward daybreak tomorrow morning, and for maybe right after sunrise, we have a chance for a little bit of precipitation. Places south and east of New York City probably will get a little bit more. Places like where I am and points north and west may not get much of anything. But regardless, that's our one shot of precipitation because from what I could see, it looks like we could be bone dry here now, all the way out to the end of next week, save perhaps for Teddy making an unexpected turn to the west northwest and coming back toward us.
Yeah, but
But
we
I don't
don't
think
want
that's
it.
going to be
Yeah, but we don't
be the
want it.
story. If, however,
Yeah,
you
we
want to.
don't want that to happen. No, no, we don't want that.
No, we don't
Uh,
want that to happen. But if you, in case you were planning a trip, let's say next week to Bahaba or maybe to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia or Halifax, then you have a problem. But other than that, I think we're pretty much sitting pretty here with one day after another of sunshine and chilly, if not unseasonably chilly weather with clear starlit skies at night.
yes, this is a big high coming down, a 1032 high that actually strengthens to a 1037 high in the St. Lawrence Valley. come Sunday. And the one thing we are going to see here up and down the East Coast, by the way, is going to be some rough surf with this. As Teddy is offshore, and of course with the high to the north, might get a little bit breezy for a little while Sunday into Monday along the immediate coast. Nothing crazy. And of course, if you look in the southwest Gulf of Mexico, and I'll roll this back, we have what looks like will become another tropical storm, and this one appears to be a threat for Texas, although there are some model arguments here. And it also looks like something that might wind up hanging around for a while because of the way the flow is going to be in the longer term. But we're getting a little speculative, maybe a little too speculative here. But as far as the East Coast is concerned, up and down the East Coast, as Joe pointed out, the hurricane actually reinforces the dry air with northwest winds here on Tuesday. And then we got another front that comes through at the end of the week. And there's another one for Sunday. And here's another one with a stronger high coming down in the longer range. So not much really changes here in terms of the overall pattern going forward.
Yes, and a long stretch, Joe, as you just mentioned, of nice weather thanks to that extensive high pressure cell right now located over Manitoba in Canada. And then as we move through the next several days, gradually building east and south across the northeastern states, and then kind of just setting a spell. If I may use that term from the Jed
Yeah, I was going to say,
Beverly Hillbillies.
take your shoes off, kick your shoes off.
You come back now.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, I'm also getting. I don't know if this is a Zoom thing going on. Sometimes Zoom can be a little weird. Let me. I'm going to bring up the Gulf of Mexico so we can take a look at the system down in the Southwest Gulf. And you know what? I don't like that shot, so we'll see if we can get a better one. And we'll open it up here and let's see what we got. Okay, so this will just take a few seconds to load all the frames up. And when I looked at this at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, I looked at a satellite loop, and you could definitely see that there was a low level circulation in there. And I'm looking at this. The showers and thunderstorms kind of look a little bit elongated, but there is a circulation. If you look at the clouds, you can actually see the clouds on the west side of the main cloud bank, if you want to call it that, are moving north to south, and on the other side, you're seeing those clouds going south to north. I can even see a little bit of a turning of a low level center right near the heart of that convection. So the Hurricane Center actually had a recon there this evening, Joe. So they found what they needed to find to make it a tropical depression. Let's see if they literally sent out the bulletin on this 2 minutes before we started the show. So let's see if they put the advisory up yet, and they have. Okay, so I'll bring up the map. Let's look at their forecast map, and they do make it a tropical storm. They have it moving northeast, slowly northeast, becoming a tropical storm by 1 p.m. Friday, and then keeping it a tropical storm, and then turning it west, and then west-southwest by 1 p.m. Monday. It's east of Brownsville. I guess the next one would be 1 p.m. Tuesday. It looks like they might have left that one out. But east of Brownsville. So this one's going to be a slow mover, and it's going to be around for a while. So it'll be interesting to see how that winds up playing out. And I'm going to get an early look here. Let's see if we can get an early shot of the model guidance with this. And we'll go to on Tropical Tidbits. You can find that if you go to current storms. So this would be 22. And Levi Cowan is great about getting this updated in a hurry. So this will be fun to try to figure out, Joe. Take a look at this model guidance from the hurricane model guidance. It's when you see it on the screen, you'll understand. I know you're on you get it on a bit of a delay, but
Yeah.
The number of different tracks. You know how we always look. You always look for try to find some sort of consensus, or at least to see where the bulk of them are bunched up. Well, I think we're going to have a little bit of a problem when it comes to figuring out what landmass is at the greatest threat here. so
Well,
the
if you look at the official forecast track from the Hurricane Center, it looks very much like a question mark.
Yeah, and that probably makes the most sense to do. Now let me bring up. Let's look at the upper air. Let's see what's going on down there. Why is this not as straightforward as you would like it to be? So we'll get an Atlantic view here, and we'll put the 500 millibar up. So you see Teddy, and let's run through the flow. So the system that represents our Gulf system is right in there. This is now for Sunday morning. And of course, here's Teddy. We'll make it with the T. Upper high to the east, upper high sitting probably right over Florida, another upper high over Texas. So, guess what? That depression is in a bit of a no man's land here. If you want to make the case that the upper winds are going to be west southwest across East Texas, that's the reason why a lot of the models turn it in that direction, at least for a while, west southwest, and it's literally trapped in there under a no flow scenario. Uh, I'm looking here for Monday. Yeah, I mean, there's really no push because the westerlies are so far to the north. If you look off the east coast, you see the deep trough off the east coast that's dealing with Hurricane Teddy, and then it becomes, well, at least on the model run, you see a slow westward drift into the Texas coast, and there's still no flow there, so the model just sort of kicks it around for a couple of more days. So that one might wind up being problematic if it's a slow mover, Joe. We will get into a situation where it like we just saw with Sally, where it gets near the coast and then just sits there for a couple of days. We might see something like that all over again.
Yeah, yep. You know, forward speed 2 miles an hour.
Always fun. So we'll have Teddy to look at tomorrow, and we'll have this to look at tomorrow. Meanwhile, we'll go to the look at some weather that's going on right now, and you see on the U.S. satellite loop here, you've got a lot of clouds covering the Northeast, and of course, you've got a lot of smoke covering much of the rest of the country. There's far more smoke around, Joe, than there's cloud cover. And Teddy is still not on the scene on the eastern edge of this particular shot. But this is Sally, the remnant rains of Sally, which actually quite busy on the radar this evening. Take a look at this. The radar's pretty loaded with rain from North Carolina, all of Virginia, Delaware, southern and eastern Maryland, and we've got the northern edge of that into southern New Jersey. I think, as I said earlier, Joe, I think we just kind of uh, I don't think it's going to make much more northward progress than it already is, and that might clip eastern Long Island, southeastern New England with a little bit of rain, but everybody else, just I think an outside chance of a shower when the cold front comes through.
An outside chance, yes. And it is going to be more the cold front. Again, maybe south and east of New York City, some of that moisture might have a slight association with the remnants of Sally, but whatever we do get, it's going to be very limited. And here's something very interesting, Joe. In the New York metropolitan area, we have uh, the overall conditions in terms of drought is only slightly drier than normal.
Hmm.
But meanwhile, you need only go to the east over toward Rhode Island, where they are underneath severe drought conditions. It just goes to show you just how quickly you can go from no big deal. We've had not so much moisture to really a very serious condition in terms of drought into portions of southern New England. That's again in Rhode Island.
By the way, the rains from this, the 7 day rainfall for southeastern New England, and as you mentioned for Rhode Island, we're talking about a quarter of an inch or less over the next 7 days. And of course, you see how the bulk of the rain from WPC is all out offshore. The next 7 days, uh, much of the Northeast into the Mid Atlantic states, when we get rid of this, is probably going to see very little, if any, rain at all next week. We do see some big rain setting up, some 10-inch plus rains for coastal Texas and maybe touching into parts of southwest Louisiana. We'll have to see. A lot's going to depend on the outcome of what Tropical Depression 22 or what may be Tropical Storm Wilfred when we are at it again at this time tomorrow. I do want to take a look, Joe. I just brought everything up full screen so I can see if I can find if that Medicaine is still there.
Right.
And I'm just going to see if I can find a satellite picture. So you just give me 1 second here.
And while you're
And
doing that, Joe, let me wish the best to the chairman, Scott Briller, who hit super chats tonight. Thank you so much, Scott. And he says thanks for all the good wishes. Should know by Wednesday of next week, as you mentioned, Joe, if he has caught what he's referring to as the beast and be back
yes.
soon, hopefully. So we'll
Well,
see.
let's hope it's not. I mean, it does mimic a whole bunch of other things, so it could just very well be as a another bug. And the fact that he said he doesn't have a fever, so that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. You said it can mimic uh, other things. There was a time back in the spring where one of our local weathercasters, Elise Finch on Channel 2, was out for a couple of weeks, and everybody there was very concerned because it was right around the time when COVID was spreading rapidly throughout the area. And again, everybody was thinking, like, oh my goodness, poor Elise. But it turned out that she only had a touch of bronchitis. But still, I suppose, better to have bronchitis than actually have, as Scott Briller refers to as the beast. And we hope that he doesn't have it.
Yes, indeed. Now, I just found, by the way, I got a satellite picture here. This is pretty impressive. So just give me a moment. I'm gonna save it for you. I got to bring it up on the screen in a second. Just I got to do a little paperwork. Actually, Joe, we had a couple of super chat hits. Paul Roman and William Uber hitting super chat tonight, and a big thank you to both of you for doing that. We certainly appreciate it. And let's get that shot here of the Medicaine.
Sounds almost like something you'd use if you have arthritis or whatever. Having pain problems? Use Medicaid.
Medicaine. All right, so here it is. And I got this satellite, by the way, courtesy of El Dorado Weather, so we thank them very much. But it's on the lower left, folks. Take a look at that. That is, it looks like it's got a bit of an eye there. It You would think that we should be able to have access to all these different satellites from all over the world, but unfortunately, when it comes to getting satellites from Europe, it's a very, very difficult thing. Okay, they have very few of them. It's hard to find loops. It's really a pain, but you deal with what you got. You play with the hand you're dealt. That is very impressive. And
That is.
tropical storms in the Mediterranean Sea are rare, but they do happen from time to time. And That's one of them. It's moving into Greece, and that the system that's off the coast of Portugal is also a pretty formidable looking non-tropical system that's there. And if you look on the up on the upper left, so you've got your Medicaine is on your lower right. On the upper left is the extratropical storm that is or was Paulette. So a
Wow.
pretty busy stormy period in the Atlantic, and also we with this hurricane or possible hurricane, or as they call it, a Medicane, in the Mediterranean Sea.
I actually sailed on the Mediterranean on a small yacht. This is from Sunline Cruises back in 1993, and we went through a rather potent cold front. Joe, you don't want to go through a potent cold front in the Mediterranean. This was in August,
I
and
did. I vomited for 90 minutes straight.
oh, it was terrible. Well, on my boat, they put the little bags on the stairwell every just in case. It was tremendous. I can't even imagine having interaction with a Medicaine on one of those small. I'm going to assume that most of the small ships, a small craft advisory, I would put out for much of the Mediterranean with that system.
Oh,
Uh, now,
I don't even want to relive, even tell my story, because I just get queasy if somebody has too many waves in their hair. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. But
and like Fred Hart's on the Staten Island Ferry.
right, exactly. Scott Briller, William Huber, David Schwartz, and Paul Roman. Thank you all for the four of you for hitting super chat tonight. Very much appreciated. So that pretty much covers everything with regards to our weather tonight. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you because I saw this in the news. There was a story. You could put your astronomy cap on. But there was a story the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, about finding uh, a certain gas on Venus called,
Yeah,
and that it's only it's only found where there's life. So the thinking is that maybe there is some life forms of some kind, maybe some microbes running around in Venus. All the attention's usually paid. They pay attention on Mars because Venus has kind of a toxic atmosphere. But
right.
I was kind of wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Well, actually, not so much. You know, everybody talks about Mars and Martians or whatever. The Martian atmosphere is exceedingly thin, and the overall conditions on Mars are rather hostile, at least at this particular point in time. But two of the planets you would least expect to have life or garner life, Jupiter in the higher cloud tops, there's speculation that there may be some kind of microbe or some type of life form there. And Venus, now Venus really knocks you out. This was a, I'll tell you what, for about a week, everybody was wondering the service that released this information. It was on embargo for a week, and they said special news of an astronomical interest, and everybody was saying like, well, what possibly could it be? Did they are they going to announce an asteroid is heading toward the Earth, or what possibly could this be? And the fact is, it's amazing that this is Venus, Joe, because Venus, number one, is the hottest planet in the solar system because of its thick carbon dioxide atmosphere. Venus has an average temperature of about 1,000 degrees, even hotter than Mercury, which is closest to the sun. Also, the atmospheric pressures on Venus are tremendous. They're about 100 times greater than here on the Earth. You would need something. We tried initially sending space probes in the 60s to Venus. The space probes were destroyed. They were crushed. We needed something like a bathysphere to withstand the tremendous atmospheric pressures of that are encountered within the atmosphere of Venus. So the fact that they now have believe that they have discovered some sort of a chemical that may lead to some sort of life form, probably in the higher cloud tops of Venus. It's just absolutely amazing. It just blows you away. Again, Venus and Jupiter are two of the last places in the solar system you'd expect to find any sort of life form. But here we are now in the 21st century in 2020. Of all the planets, for them now to make an announcement that there could be life, Venus is probably the last place you'd expect to look. But there it is.
We have on the chat board tonight, Joe. This is great. We have, I think I'm going to try to pronounce this, Christos, and then there's another X afterward. And I know the X symbol in Greek is also the um, Christ symbol. He is in Greece, and welcome. He says, I live in Greece, and right now it's starting to hit uh, Kefalonia Island. And he said Shipwreck Beach is in Zakam Mythos, and it's going to hit there too. I'm curious, Christos, if they're saying there, because I've been trying to find out just exactly how strong this system is. If they're saying what the top winds with this. They don't have that I could find. I saw that the meteorological agency in from Athens had named this Lanos, and they did report on it, but I didn't see anything that said what the strongest winds were. So I'm just kind of curious as if whether they've given you if you have that information, you could share it with us and with our audience. In the meantime, I just want to give Brandon Doherty a thank you also for hitting super chat. I'm going to do a quick Google search, Joe, just to see if there's anything on this.
And
Um,
Dennis Cassia, my fellow assiduous amateur astronomer, I did not have the name close at hand, but he says it's phosphine gas that
that's
has
it. That's what it is. Phosphine.
phosphine. And that is the gas that presumably could lead to, or has been found to interact and cause life forms, at least here on the planet Earth. But again, Venus is a whole different ball of wax. Venus, as I said, carbon dioxide atmosphere, pressures 100 times more than the Earth. Whatever it is has to be, as in the case of Jupiter, the suspicion for any life has to be up at the higher cloud tops. But again, you're being subjected to tremendous temperatures. And Venus, Joe, is a strange planet. It's rotating backwards. In other words, our planet Earth rotates from west to east. So the sun rises in the east, it sets in the west. If you were on Venus, and if you could possibly see through that carbon dioxide thick cloak of cloud cover, the sun in the sky, it would rise in the west, it would set in the east. And here's the other weird fact about Venus. Venus takes 225 days to go around the sun. That's one Venus year. But a day on Venus is 243 days. It takes longer for Venus to make one turn on its axis as opposed to making one trek around the sun. And again, it's going backwards as opposed to the movement of the Earth. So it is a really a wacky planet. And again, maybe there was and Dennis would know because Dennis is a big fan of, as I was when I was a youngster, of monster movies. They actually did a movie about some sort of creature that came from the planet Venus. It was transported to Earth in like a small tin can. Unfortunately, when that creature was subjected to the atmosphere of the Earth, it began to do something. It began to grow. It got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I think at one point, maybe you may even remember this in your young life, Joe, seeing this movie. This creature that looked kind of like Godzilla, doing battle with an elephant
Oh,
in
good
in,
Lord.
in Italy.
Uh,
And guess who the star of this movie was? William Hopper.
oh, yeah, I'm sure. And
He
of
was
course, well, we had Raymond Burr did Godzilla. He was known for
he's
the
Godzilla.
Godzilla.
William Hopper appeared in two famous monster pictures. He appeared in that one with the creature from Venus, and he also appeared in the movie The Giant Mantis.
Yes, that I remember too.
A giant praying mantis which came into New York, and I think they trapped it in the Holland Tunnel and killed it.
Well, he was also in a very good movie and a very disturbing movie, and that's The Bad Seed. That was done in the late 50s. Stian Terstead, who's an occasional visitor here, and we welcome you back. Haven't seen you in a while. I think I did see you pop up the other night, but he says it's past midnight in Greece now. The worst winds are expected to be in the next 4 to 5 hours. I did see, by the way, I was able to read off of, translate off of one news story, and Rick B. Also mentions this that the top winds are probably on the order of about 50 to 60 miles an hour. So it's a tropical storm from what we're seeing.
And
Um,
Stian, if you're listening, and I know you are because you're on the chat board, I was in your country in 1993. I visited Corfu um, in Greece. A very lovely country. Myself and my good friend Sam Storch, we visited there and found Greece and the Med just a beautiful piece of real estate.
well, real estate's always good.
Yeah, yeah.
The dollar goes pretty far there.
Yes, if I do remember correctly, yeah. And David Schwartz points out 133 people tonight. Good crowd. Good crowd for considering that the only thing we really have to talk about is a Medicaid and possibly a threat from Teddy next week. But the rest of our area going to enjoy some really nice weather for the coming days ahead.
There's a Stian was asking me about whether the remnants of Sally make it across the Atlantic to Norway. Not exactly. There actually is a well, the remnants of Sally wind up going toward Iceland. So I guess some of the showers with that eventually travel across east of there. There's a stronger low that comes out of Labrador and intensifies once it passes Greenland in the long range, and comes slamming into Ireland. By the time we get to the latter part of next week, there's a 970 low that comes into Western Ireland, and that storm circulation is rather large and covers a good solid portion of the northeast Atlantic. And I'm just trying to see what happens with Teddy. Teddy, after it goes inland and goes into Labrador, at least on this run, actually winds up going northwestward and gets caught in the upper low in eastern Canada, and it just starts rotating around and around and around. So, but interestingly enough, sometimes these things in one form or another do make it all the way across, and we've seen that happen from time to time over the last 4 or 5 seasons. So who knows? Usually, it's the late season systems that wind up becoming strong extratropical storms and impacting Europe in some fashion.
And Joe, can you believe it that the long on the GFS, you go all the way out, 15 days, you're already into early October.
I know, isn't that something? Dub Dub wants to know if Teddy does hit Nova Scotia, what category would it be? Looking at a two like Dorian, well, that turned extratropical, but it was definitely a hurricane. That's a tough question right now at this point, because you look at the way the models hold up the storm rather strongly as it goes northward. Then at the last minute, it does seem to weaken a little bit. Uh, what it comes in as and whether it makes a conversion to extratropical is going to depend on does it accelerate northward? If it starts accelerating at 40 or 50 miles an hour as it moves up through the North Atlantic, that's going to make a big difference in terms of outcome, especially if you're on the east side. So I think that's one of the forecast problems that we're going to tackle over the weekend, and then the
And
Hurricane Center is going to tackle.
and you could have a category 2 storm, but if it's moving at a forward speed of, let's say, 20 or 30 miles an hour, you add that forward speed onto the sustained winds around that system, and you can end up with a storm that has the potency more of a Cat 3. And we probably saw that with the hurricane in 1938 that hit Long Island and southern New England.
Yep. And Dub Dub said that he lives in Halifax, and Dorian did massive damage there last year. We remember we covered it on one of our shows, if you remember, when Dorian went inland into Nova Scotia, and I could remember some places getting winds in excess of 100 miles an hour out of that.
Right.
It was a lot of damage. So let's look. Let's uh, we don't sit here hoping for these things. Okay, we really don't. We want them to go away
Yes.
because the impacts are huge, and in particular, in a year with what's going on this year, with everything else that you have to handle, to throw in a hurricane on top of that is not good. It's not good at all. So let's we could only hope that that upper low winds up kicking it out more to the east instead of dragging it up to the north. We'll just have to see what happens when we come back and look at things tomorrow. Which are we doing a Friday night show?
What's today? Well,
Today's
today's
Thursday.
Thursday.
So I'll leave it to you. If we do a Friday night show, maybe we'll not do Saturday, or should we not do a Friday night show and do Saturday, or do you want to do a show Friday and Saturday? I have no plans, so
I have no plans either. Where am I
all right.
going?
So
Where are you going?
we got these storms on the map. We'll do it. We'll be here tomorrow night, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do on Saturday. Either way, we are here Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time on the Joe and Joe Weather Show Sunday morning, 11 a.m. So you could have a late breakfast with us. Mike Coldclaw. I apologize if I didn't pronounce it correctly. I see Teddy as an extension of the amplified pattern we during the summer. Arctic tongue goes far south, and tropical air goes far north. In this case, it's a hurricane, not a heat wave and a cold front. Well, that's quite true. I mean, we've seen a lot of troughs with a lot of amplitude going back to late July, and we've noted several times during the month of August, particularly when Isaias came up the coast, how uh, the trough the troughing in the east. You had the jet stream basically dropping all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico on a couple of occasions, and that just doesn't happen very often in early August. You see it in September, and you see it certainly in late September, early October, but it was highly unusual to see it in late July and on and off through the month of August. So I'm on the same page with you, Mike Coldclaw. Again, apologies if I didn't say it correctly.
And I'm sure, Joe, that in the coming weeks, we're going to be hearing more and more a question posed to both you and I. And that question is, well, we had so many hurricanes this year. What does that mean for the winter season? What happened in 2005? Can we use what happened in the winter of 2005, 2006, and translate that into what might happen this year? And I can hear the questions already.
Oh yeah, no, and I just made a big zero on the screen. No impact. I would just caution. I know we're going into a La Nina, so every people are going, oh, it's a La Nina year, so that means the winter's not in the eastern part of the United States. Everybody, let me just emphasize that question when it comes up for people that live in the I-95 corridor. Because for people who live in the I-95 corridor, if it doesn't snow in the I-95 corridor, it doesn't matter if it snows anywhere else. Okay, so it only matters if it snows in the I-95 corridor, and they will tell you that they're not happy about this La Nina. But I will just say that the La Nina is only one piece of a very big and difficult to decipher puzzle. So if
And
you
will it be a strong La Nina or will it be a weak La Nina? I'm
look,
not even.
and you know what, it at the end of the day, it to me, after what happened last year, where we had no Nina or
Right,
Nino. We had nothing. It was pretty much a normalized atmosphere. It didn't matter because the polar vortex in the stratosphere wrapped up like a tight ball up in the Arctic region and kept all the cold air up there anyway. It
right.
behaved like it was a strong La Nina or a strong El Nino year without the strong El Nino or the strong La Nina. So what does that tell you? It tells you that you can't just look at one thing and say this is going to be the outcome. You just can't. So that's why I'm not. And you know how I feel about long range. I'm not doing it. So
Well, if I can just quote a friend of ours who we worked with for many years, Norm Devoskin. He said this after Hurricane Sandy. He said, every once in a while, nature throws something like this at us just to show that we're not in control of anything.
yes, Chase the Beast is new to the board and said, did you mention anything about Maine or Louisiana about getting hit by the two storms within the next 10 days? We certainly did. You'll have to go back earlier go back and look at it on the replay. We did a whole thing about Teddy shooting northward, and maybe if it's far enough west, it might clip southeastern Maine. But Nova Scotia looks like the stronger target here. But we're going to be talking about that more over the next couple of days.
And Chase, don't get, if you do watch the show from the beginning, or if you do watch what we did earlier answering your question, don't get offended by the fact that the chairman referred to the COVID-19 as the beast.
Yes.
The beast.
Exactly. All right. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for being here, everybody. Joe and I appreciate all the super chat hits tonight. Thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.